Good evening and welcome to Nerds at Night. As always, I'm Kid Thunder DJing.
And Fire at 47.
It's good to be back after the Thanksgiving holiday. I know it was funny because the show before we're like, yes, we're back, and we're back to recording, and then we're like, completely forgot it was Thanksgiving and knew we were going to be off that week anyway. But we are back. A lot of stuff's happened, so a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. So let's just jump right to it. A little bit of shameless plugs, though, to steal from our quote-unquote podcast nemesis at Real Spoilers, which they're really not. And by the way, if you love movies, check those guys out. We're available on iTunes, searching for Nerds at Night, Facebook.com/Nerds at Night, Twitter at Nerds at Night, nerdsatnight.com, all of them NITE for the word night. Tons of new merchandise on our eBay page. If you search for Nerds at Night on eBay, you'll find us there. In fact, we're going to talk about some of that stuff later. The next toy show is coming up. We're about little over 2 weeks away. It looks like on the 11th of December. So as always, make sure you visit our booth, Vanessa Kiefer's booth, Catman Toys and Games, and Toys of Our Youth. We'll all be out there. That'll cover you for any art or retro toy or game you need. So, that being said, in the last couple weeks as we talked to you, a couple big games have come out. Watch Dogs 2, Final Fantasy 15, Pokemon Sun and Moon, just to name a few. We should have something on Watch Dogs 2 next week. We just didn't get to it. I've been playing the crap out of Pokemon Sun. My wife, Shari, has been playing a lot of Pokemon Moon. Really good game. There was a couple of things about it I was a little sketchy on going in, and I don't want to say they were bad, but there's definitely positives and negatives. As you guys have, if you're listening and care about Pokemon games, have known, they took out the HM things, which were a lot of the abilities you could use to interact with your Pokemon in the outside world, like surf or flying or cut to get rid of vines. They got rid of those.
Oh, those?
Yeah.
That's what the HMs are? Damn.
Well, what they did is they went with this system of you get these pager beacons from the Kunas, or Kahunas as they call them, basically the head of each island or right, each region of an island.
The Kahunas of the island.
Yeah, the Kahunas, the ones that you pass the test with periodically, and they allow you to call a transport Pokemon to meet your needs. There's one you can ride for speed to ram through rocks. There's one you can ride on the water. A second one you can ride on the water who can go faster to ram through water rocks. One who can push big stone blocks out of the way. One who can go over rocky terrain. And one who can root around and dig for stuff. So,
sounds kind of interesting, but yeah, it's kind of...
Well, the pros are you don't have to worry about missing the location for the HM if it's an HM that's hidden out of the way. Yeah. It also gets rid of some of the game breaking you can do if you start a new game, Brandon, and I just trade you a Pokemon that already knows it.
Yeah,
and you can do some of the exploratory stuff way before you should.
Yeah, that's true. That does make sense.
But then again, that's also the double edge of it. Takes away that ability to explore more on your own and play the game more your style. So that's just something to be aware of if you pick the game up. Stories.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but at the same time, doing some of that could, if it led you into a story segment that you were near the end of the game and then you're at the start of the game, that could super break the game just by sequencing.
Yeah, but that's not usually something you have to worry about in Pokemon. I could see it have been a problem in this one. But it's just more the idea that if you're going to play a game, take the time and enjoy the game. Don't try to skip too far ahead in ability, because it never works. It's like I tell people who will, burn through a PC mod to have their character all roided out. Well, that throws off the pacing of the game. And it just really messes with stuff.
It's kind of fun to be OP for a bit, but
right.
Then what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, play through the game proper first. That's always the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just an interesting little side note I wanted to bring up. So, you've been playing Final Fantasy 15. We actually just picked it up, obviously.
Yeah, grabbed that one last night, and I played it a bit last night for a good couple hours, a little bit tonight before the podcast started. Overall, it's not bad. I certainly wouldn't I wouldn't put it up as the best of the series or anything like that. Definitely my biggest issue is again the combat.
Yeah.
The combat's been my point against it since the very beginning. since it was like started to really get shown off and put into context. Like visually, it's cool, it's flashy and whatnot, but mechanically, it is a pain. It's very clunky. It at the same time feels like it's being very simplistic and doing too much at the same time, because you could quite literally hold circle and your character will do a stream of attacks.
Yeah.
So, which is in its own right simple, but then you have to switch off to go to square and hold that so you can enter a dodge phase when you're able to actually notice through all the chaos and carnage of everything that an enemy's trying to attack you, so you'll phase out of the way. And
yeah, so anyway, what's kind of your final quick net thought on this?
overall, the characters are all right. Story's pretty good, progressing pretty well so far. Combat's definitely my biggest issue so far.
Yeah.
And, for a big ass, 50, 80 hour game, whatever you want to call it, it will grow to become an issue.
I'm sure it will, but hopefully they'll patch it out. The PlayStation Expo's this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, that's coming up too.
Yeah, a couple.
This weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Right. I always love the rumors of what's going to get revealed and what's not at these things. Like, there was this logo floating around social media that says it's part of Marvel vs. Capcom 4. And then you said some well-respected site that's been accurate before says it's not true, but I read other well-respected sites saying it is, or that there is going to be an announcement about it.
Yeah,
soon.
it's all going around. It's going to be interesting because generally when you do get the big name rumors like this close to one, most cases they're pretty accurate. Another one I heard, I believe, was there's a lot of rumors that Last of Us 2 is going to be finally revealed there. I'm sure there are people, sitting on the edge of their seats for possible Final Fantasy VII remake announcements.
That thing.
Because that's needing, that hasn't had some news in a while.
Oh, yeah, it hasn't. But that's, I'm out on that because it's like, it's going to be episodic. I'm like, and cut. But I'll wait and reserve judgment. I didn't think I'd get into some games that were that radically changed before, and I have. So we'll just have to wait and see. Right. So another big news is, was it Universal Studios?
Yeah.
Teaming up with Nintendo to basically do a Nintendo version of the Harry Potter park.
Right, like their own little theme park worlds of various Nintendo properties and characters.
Right.
Looks like we got things like, I think they're starting with Mario, obviously, and then they're going to branch off probably into Zelda.
So you think there's a ride where you actually get real fireballs shot at you?
Sure.
They'll call it the Goomba Express. You ride in a cart painted brown like the Goomba, kind of, trapezoid shaped. They start firing fireballs at you, and
just giant flamethrower traps.
Right. They start dressing fat guys up as Mario and put them on suspension cables and have them jump on your head, and it's just the top of your car. Yeah, right. That'd be interesting. But yeah, I mean, it worked with Harry Potter. It's worked with a couple of other things Universal's done. Yeah, they're really good at.
They're supposed to be like immersive and interactive and shit.
Right, they're better than Disney or Six Flags at making the interactive, immersive thing. Definitely should be a good thing.
It basically seems like they're finally putting like a functional like theme park area, almost kind of like what you would find of like the E3 booths and locations and such, where they would like go all out and make like.
Well, obviously, yeah, they're going to have to borrow that model because,
if you saw like when they did the Breath of the Wild release at I think that one was E3.
Yeah.
You saw they had this like whole thing set up where it was like the whole stage booth they were in was styled like Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, but I mean that's all the easy part. The part that's going to be a problem is how do you really translate these things into an actual long-running attraction, multiple attractions at that are going to hold the attention of park goers year after year. I mean, the thing about the Harry Potter one is you kind of go through wizard training and you get all kinds of swag. Nintendo's never really been swag happy. They want you to pay for everything.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
I mean, like, they could do something for, like, the Zelda one where obviously you start from maybe, like, the Young Link stage and then, start with the basic sword and then you get the Master Sword and shit and strike down Ganon or something,
We'll see.
There's a lot of potential. These are going to be worked on over, planning and stuff is already underway. and they'll be open like incrementally over the next couple of years. So it'll be pretty interesting to see what they do.
It will. So let's move on to TV news. And I bring this up because we just not that long ago had the Walking Dead premiere. I mean, although we are almost to the mid-season finale. And
gotta love those.
Yeah, which I think is, and we'll get into this. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. The Walking Dead, and I don't have the official numbers because they're never as accurate on either side. You know, if somebody wants to make a show look like it's failing, they pump them up. If a network wants to make it look like it's not so bad, they pump them down. But undeniably so, the ratings are just taking a beating this year.
Yeah.
Now, the series did do a series high with the premiere.
Yeah, it started strong.
But a lot of people think that was part of the problem. The premiere really, really, really offended a lot of viewers to the point where if you compare numbers of drops in ratings to people saying that I'm never watching again, it's actually believable that a good portion of them were people who just said, I'm not watching again. And I mean, because that premiere was harsh. The follow-up episodes really have painted Negan, and I get it. I know whoever's going to hear this is going to come in, well, he was this way in the comics. No, he didn't break Rick as bad in the comics as he has in the show. Rick played like he had, but it was made very clear to everyone else that, you know, he was making a plan. The first visit to Alexandria was a little bit like it was, or I'm sorry, from Alexandria, or to Alexandria by Negan's group, was portrayed the same sort of way where he just let them take whatever they wanted. But even then, you know, like when they tried to take all the medicine, he objected. And Negan's like, well, you've got your walls to protect you. You don't need medicine. And they didn't strip them of all their guns because they knew they would still have to deal with the dead. And if they wanted them to get their stuff, you know, they did take away the heavier weapons that could more easily assault Negan's men.
Like that giant, you know, rocket launcher that he stole.
You know, in the show, they took everything.
Yeah, they left nothing behind.
Right.
They had like a checklist, and he made sure it was to the letter.
Right. So there was definitely Negan having way too strong of a hold. The real breaking of Rick's character and not the faking, I think, is hurting it. And I said, we'll get to it.
I mean, I don't even know if it's, you know, hurting it. I mean, it could be, but, like, personally, I thought that was pretty damn, like, the whole scene of it was, again, harsh, but I thought it was cool.
Well, you have one scene paying off for one moment, and then they have to go back and fix it, not even to make it in line with the comic, but just make it compelling. Broken, sad puppy Rick, and oh my god, Rick's number 2s ran off again. Gee, how many number 2s are even not even... Okay, maybe not number 2s, but how many higher level members of Rick's group just get fed up and run away? Andrea, for a little while Shane, now Carol, Morgan's still gone. It's like we've seen it. And I think that's also part of the problem is...
What's the one going up here? You know, was that
Well, right now Michonne's gone.
I was going to say, was it her?
Yeah, it's just, oh my god, this whole notion of... it was the one... And Kirkman actually said this. How many more things can you conceivably throw at Rick before just his natural human spirit would be like, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't rebound from all of this.
Right. At some point, despair would win in this world if things didn't improve. And you can argue, oh, well, you know, they started forming networks with other groups and there's been this gradual drawdown in needs for guns.
Yeah, it's like there has been improvements.
But that's that's all in the comics. In the TV show world, it's the same thing every season. Hey, we have a home. Things are going to be great. Home gone. Hey, we have a home. Things are going to be great. Home gone. And before you say, oh, no, they're still in Alexandria, if you really dissect what's happened there, that place has been dismantled twice now. First, it was dismantled by the
Walker break-in.
The wolves destroying the wall. Yeah, they cleared everybody out and rebuilt the wall, but before the town could fully recover, if you really pay attention to all the subtext, Negan's come in and basically wiped them out again. They've got buildings. Well, there's buildings everywhere.
Yeah. There's
fenced-in yards and buildings everywhere where you could turn for at least a short amount of time until you attracted a herd, any house really into a fairly safe place. So
Yeah.
that doesn't really change much. That's no real different than being on the road. So they really don't have anything left again. And it was the same thing over and over. Now they get into this habit of these big cliffhangers about, ooh, what's going to happen next over one situation. And they hype that one situation up so much that after it happens, they're really...
and then they don't touch it. They go to another...
Right. And then that's what I was going to say. It was... They don't touch it right away because they're still loving to play this whole let's focus on one character at a time, which slows everything down.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm all for character development, and I like a lot of these characters. Not every character needs its own hour. I love Daryl. Didn't need a whole episode about what he's going through in Negan's camp. And I know they tried to expand it and make it more about Daryl and what's...
The douche.
Yeah, the guy from Negan's group who in the comic, Dwight, who will turn around and if they follow the comics will eventually betray Negan so that they can, eventually have the end of all this. But it's like, what is left for them to really do on the TV show? They've gotten formulaic. They got into such a pattern of certain core characters couldn't die that to bring that shock value back, they had to go so far over the line they offended their viewership. And I don't think they're going to get much more. I think they know the end is coming. If they want to finish out their story, I think they know the end is coming. There's already been rumblings that in the second half of the season, we're going to see a real quick drawdown with the end of Negan, which you really shouldn't do. Because there's so much there that sets up so much of where I think the future of the comics is going. Like, I think Rick's dying soon in the comics. This last series in the comics, they've really been hinting at him more or less showing his age. And with them really pimping hard Negan being reformed and being on the side of Alexandria, I think you're going to see them get through the Whisper War, but it's going to cost Rick his life. And when it does, I think you're going to see Negan step in somewhat reformed and continue on for Rick, and it's going to center around Negan and Carl. That's my theory. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
you were talking about that. I don't know if it was more on the show, but you were talking with me about how Carl, like in the comics, goes through and like wipes out a fuck ton of the saviors, and actually like earns a bit of like Negan's respect.
Yeah, he doesn't kill a bunch, but he does pick off a couple. He sneaks in, and it's like the spoiler alert. It's the end of the most recent episode where he hides in the back of a truck. Only difference is he has a sniper rifle with him. When he gets back to the Savior's compound, he starts icing people, and it earns. This is something else they haven't brought out in Negan's character yet. As over the top as Negan is, there are always these very, very, and they are very few and very subtle moments in the comics where you show that he's not purely a bad guy. He is, in the context of how he treats people and how he acts, total dickbag bad guy. But the man himself isn't. Like, he says a joke to Carl about his eye, and it actually makes Carl cry, and he actually has a real moment of humanity, like, and legitly apologizes to him, like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that. He stops one guy from attacking another for no reason. His punishments are usually centered around not being fatal, which that's the only thing they've hinted on in the show. Like when you see Dwight with the burnt up side of his face, this wouldn't be the best example with the various beatings on Daryl, but that's not the best example. It's not the best example, but it's still
he's trying to break him down.
Right.
So never mind.
Right. That doesn't count.
But it'll be interesting to see where this is going to go as far as like just Negan and Carl.
That's just it. In the comics, it is. In the show, it's not, because we already know what's going to happen. Because they can't get off their formula, and their formula is going to be there's going to be a big battle. They're going to lose Alexandria, or it's going to take another huge amount of physical damage that probably at this point is going to be relatively impossible in reality to come back from, but they're going to manage to do it, and Negan's going to be dead. And that's going to be because I don't see them keeping Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I believe his name is, that guy under a long-term contract. He just came off a successful role in Batman v Superman. He's, he had the comedian role. He's way more of a movie actor than a television actor. So I really don't see them keeping him as long-term as they should. You can't recast that role. So
God, no.
by the end of the season, or maybe middle of next season, Negan's going to be dead. And they're going to squander everything. And when you mix everything else going on with that, that's why I think we've got 1.5 to maybe 2 seasons left before they have to fast forward through everything else to get to an end point. Because the only logical ending to this series, there's 2 in my book, that isn't going to get shit on. And both of these still will, but I mean as much. One, you have that moment where to save everyone and to see that the world is finally very slowly coming back around, because they show that in the comics where they begin to learn how to make bullets. They're making more produced food like breads and stuff. There's more communication with other towns. It isn't as much about, there's still raiders and stuff, but you have groups watching out for each other, combined forces. Civilization is slowly returning.
Yeah.
To the point where the fringe groups that are out there on the road are probably going to wind up eventually devoured, either by the other groups killing them or zombies. And for whatever reason, Rick, just sort of being old and worn out, finally ends it, and it moves down to Carl, and in the show, probably Michonne, and since they probably won't, unless they end it while he's still under contract, since they probably won't have Negan, he probably won't be a part of it, but then that means it'll either be Daryl or Dwight, and it's just sort of, we're going to kind of keep going because this is where the world is. Or everyone dies.
Yeah.
They just fail. And honestly, I know this sounds bad, I'm in favor of they just die. Because that's the reality of life. Sooner or later, under those conditions, they built themselves up for the zombies are going to win.
Yeah, that'd definitely be a ballsy move, and I would kind of respect that if that's where they eventually take it to.
Right.
Is if eventually they finally just lose out.
Right.
But I think I'm looking at you. I think we've spent way too much on Walking Dead alone.
Right.
Ready to move on?
No, well, there's one other part of the Walking Dead universe I want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the Fear of the Walking Dead webisodes. I was praying if they were going to do webisodes again, they'd go back to the 2 to 3 or up to 5 minute, 3 or 4 episodes only, compelling story that moved quickly. No. We're back to...
Which one was the ones that...
Well, they were in the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead, they did those kind of webisodes. There was Torn Apart, Cold Storage, and The Oath. And they got progressively less interesting, but they were still good overall. And they were far better than Flight, For Whatever, and Passage is what I think they're calling this one now. Especially because in the first couple of these, you realize they had a far better story. Because this one was predictable. And again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, there's a girl following around another girl who's... The girl that's being followed is obviously right away very proficient at killing zombies. She corners the other girl who admits she's trying to find her boyfriend who knows about a tunnel into Mexico because it's supposed to be safer. And she was following her because she can't kill them and that's why she's lost her family. That was your better story. If they would have shown her from like the day 0 of the outbreak and show her losing her family and show her finally getting out of LA before the bombs fell, and the toll that would take on... Because my one complaint about Fear the Walking Dead was every main character on the show knew everything about the zombies in 2 episodes. Knew how to kill them, knew that you could resurrect if you
just
die. I wanted someone who just didn't know and didn't have, like Alex or Charlie or whatever she was calling herself on the other web shows, have that one person who just knew. I wanted a small group of people who just didn't know, which was what made the Torn Apart one work. Is nobody knew. It was set in the very beginning of the outbreak and nobody knew, and they were just having to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was the better story. Anyway, as of the last one, they get to the tunnel, find this guy's boyfriend or this girl's boyfriend. He acts all happy, sends her down the tunnel first, and then tries to kill the chick that helped him because obviously he doesn't want anybody else finding out about it because, of course, you knew as soon as they found this guy, he was going to be crazy because
Right,
it's The Walking Dead. It can't just be, yeah, I stayed here because I thought the bombs got you, which was his excuse, and oh yeah, you've helped my friend get here. Obviously, it's just you two. He's like, you'll tell somebody about the tunnel. Who the fuck cares if she does? I'm like, if you guys are just using it, yeah. If you guys are just getting into Mexico,
why couldn't the 3 of you stick together? Good
right?
God.
I mean,
I didn't even
just
follow it, but that
glaring
just sounds terrible.
plot hole right off the bat, and it's like I'm already out. And considering how bad Fear the Walking Dead ended its second season, it seems like 2 seasons are about all I can get out of these shows.
Yeah,
because it's like I really don't know if I'm going to go 3rd season Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So now we're done with the Walking Dead topics because we're about halfway through our show here. So anyway, I wanted to talk about some of the new items we had for the toy show, and I'm just going to fly through these real quick. A couple things to watch out for at our table. We've got one of the Tower Record exclusive Anya from Buffy the Vampire Slayer figure, which was centered around the Once More Feeling episode. The 1989 Giant Donatello figure in box with his weapons, so, complete in box. About 5 or 6 new in box Spawn figures, including a couple of the figure/comic packs, including one of which is a legit misprint label. Its label says it's supposed to be Angela, and it's actually Chapel. So, if you're a Spawn figure collector, that's going to be on our table for $200. Right, and trust me, it's one of the ones that use the rivet packaging. All the rivets are intact. There's no evidence of resealing. This is a legit misprint.
Sorry, guys.
And the mic. So, on to our retro topic for this week. I was watching one of the lists for either What Culture or something, and they were talking about voiceovers in gaming. And I had thought about it for a minute, and as we all have our guys we recognize right away, even if we don't know their name, like, oh yeah, this guy voiced this guy and this guy. But what about like famous actors who just do games occasionally and aren't really a voice actor for gaming? Not like Elijah Wood voicing Frodo in a Lord of the Rings game, because that's the character they played in the movie.
Right.
And anymore, that's becoming
same cast.
Yeah, that's becoming part of movie contracts that you'll voice the character in other mediums.
Yeah.
So, I was thinking a couple of my favorites. I mean, obviously, there's the godfather of this, the guy who really who was one of the, probably not the first, but one of the first we all know of who really built a second life in voiceovering after movies, and that was Mark Hamill as the Joker. He reprised his role as the Joker from the cartoons into the Arkham games, and he'll always be one of the best for that.
Yeah, he was great.
Another one was getting Samuel L. Jackson in games like, Saints Row.
Who was he in that?
He was one of your advisors, one in the gang. I can't remember his. I'm looking at I found him on a list too, and he was also in San Andreas. He was Officer Tenpenny.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So yeah, he's done a couple of games, always kind of playing the hard ass guy. John Goodman appeared in Rage as Dan Hagen, which was just spot on because that guy, that voice really fit that. I don't care anymore. Or Hagar, no, I don't know why I said Hagen.
That was a fun game for what it was.
Right. Oh yeah, that game was underrated because if that game had came out a year before we had ever heard of Borderlands,
right? I was gonna say
that game would have been really massive. And it was in development before Borderlands, so if I remember correctly, so it was just timing.
It's kind of like what happened with Battleborn. Battleborn, nothing necessarily wrong against it, but it got incessantly compared to Overwatch when really they're not that similar of games, besides the fact that they have like unique characters that kind of have really like big personality quirks or traits that like make them easily identifiable, so they kind of like they were incessantly compared because of their similar release date, which kind of sucks because from what I've heard, Battleborn itself is actually not that bad.
Yeah. Patrick Stewart's another one. I kind of am anymore just considering him a gaming voiceover guy because he's done so many, but definitely I can't remember the character's name, but him as the Emperor in Oblivion.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that was him.
Man, I haven't played in Oblivion in years.
Yep. And then you had here's another guy who's kind of borderline and that's Michael Ironside, who's like Sam Fisher in the Tom Clancy games, and does a ton of bad guy voices because he's just got that immediate,
that deep voice.
Yeah, that immediately noticeable deep voice. Wonder what all of his credits are. Let me look that up real fast. So,
well, this one, the only one that I can immediately think of is this one isn't an actor as much, I don't think, but just like a voice actor in gaming history that I really like for one of his roles is Travis Willingham. He's the one who's pretty famous for his identifiable deep voice. He did
yeah, but that goes against the whole concept. The whole idea of this is,
actors. I know.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of people who do these things as secondary roles, not that's all they do. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. It was just, definitely voice of Sam Fisher. He did another video game recently, and I'm trying to remember what it was. See if I can find it. I'm trying to find it in his credits list. Time Shift as Dr. Crone. Jack Granger in Command and Conquer. Obviously Splinter Cell. More Splinter Cell.
More Splinter Cell.
Right. Oh well, he's done a lot of games without making it a full-on career, but yeah, that's some of my favorites. So, who are your favorites? Stars. They did a role, wasn't a video game based on one of their movies roles. Let us know who you guys liked out there. Leave a comment on us and let us know, since Brandon didn't do his homework and come up with any on his own to keep this part of the conversation going.
Sorry.
Now, it's December, or about to be December. Actually, as of right now, as we're recording, it's December, so this counts.
Damn it.
Christmas. And we were wondering, this year, obviously, the big toy is those hatchlings. Those god-awful things where you just wait around for basically a stuffed animal to temper differentiate itself out of a plastic egg, and then it's over.
But then you have the
stuffed animal to go with 1,000 other stuffed animals most kids have.
Of course.
Right. So that got us wondering what were the popular toys for, whatever year. And I found a nice list that's, from 1980 to 2011, which is good because I was more curious about years we were born and stuff. So I was born in 83, and my year was Cabbage Patch Kids, which makes sense. And then my first birthday my first Christmas I would have been able to remember. So, that's usually around age 5. So for me, that's 88, would have been all of the Ghostbusters toys, which makes sense. I probably would have wanted a bunch of those.
Yeah, the funny thing there with the Ghostbusters one is seeing the firehouse, which is one of the merch items we have a lot that we can't get rid of easily.
Right.
So that's just fun but painful memories.
Right, and then you move up.
Looking on my year, 95 was something called Pogs. I actually don't remember these.
Yeah, that was a game. You put a stack of these things upside down in the middle of a circle, then you use a heavier one called a slammer to see how many of them you can knock over. And in theory, you were supposed to keep the ones you got face up, but obviously no kid did that successfully.
I was going to say, it looks like it would be hard to really tell unless there was a clear marker.
Usually. And they all had different designs, and there was even kits for making your own. It was a whole thing
it basically looks like flat marbles.
Right. We actually have a set of Power Ranger ones that we sell.
Oh, is that what that thing is?
Yep. 1990 was another interesting year. That was when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys were really big.
Yeah, there's more of those figures.
Right. 92 was the big year for WWF figures for Christmas. And then, let's see.
Oh, the one I'm looking at talks about something called Thunderbird's Tracy Island.
Yeah.
I guess I got a different list from you.
Yeah, you're looking at the mirror list. You're looking at the UK list. I sent you in your Facebook a list to the Chive article, but it is funny how definitely things moved to a far more technological level by the 2010s. You were looking at or the late 2000s, the DS, and then there was the Xbox 360,
I wouldn't even say like the
PS3.
I wouldn't even say like the 2010s, just like the mid 2000s.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Because like you get like
So
2000, you get that little robot dog toy.
right, and you get Elmo Live in 2008. 2009 was the Nintendo Wii.
05 I saw was 360, then 06 was PS3.
Right. And then in 2011, our list ended with the Kindle Fire, which is about right. So that was always interesting. Again, this year's top toys, obviously those hatchlings things. So just goes to show that the viral video equivalent in toys can trump even high technology. But I think this year, that's kind of good. I think every so often we need that reset.
Yeah. Where it's not just, the next game console or handheld or phone.
Right. It's something. It's always cool when the top toy for a year is a toy.
Right.
Because, I wish it was something that was going to have a little more staying power. I feel really bad for the people who pre-bought hundreds of these because, and it's always a gamble you take. Like, I wanted those Walmart exclusive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle / WWE hybrid figures. They are gone. I mean, and by the time any new ones ship out, the craze is going to be over. Now, since those are Walmart exclusives, they may hold out with a little more staying power, but these hatchlings are everywhere. Sooner or later, they're going to get replenished everywhere. Not to mention, like I said, they just turn into a stuffed animal in the end. They're basically no different than a Beanie Baby or, something like that. So when that market crashes, it's going to crash hard. Action figure markets tend to not hit the wall as bad. Very few figures drop below their original retail. So at the very least, if you don't factor in storage or whatnot, you can get your money back. But, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but for big popular toy lines, it's rare they lose face value.
I was going to say, how are have you actually looked into the value of those WWE figures?
Oh yeah, they're into the hundreds of bucks now.
Oh wow.
150 and up for obviously. What's weird is I thought the Rafis Sting or Donatello's Undertaker would be the more expensive one. It's actually Michelangelo as Cena, which I hate. You hate
that it makes sense.
I hate that it makes sense because this is for littler kids, and little kids love Cena.
They love
makes sense, and Michelangelo, he's the current generation's most popular because they build up his goofiness instead of the other guys. So I get it. Just sucks because should be Undertaker. Damn it. But anyway,
he lost. He can't be cool anymore.
So going into wrestling now to wrap up tonight's show.
Nice little transition.
Right. They call that a segue in radio school.
Yours too.
Well, some nights we're just not funny, and I think tonight's one of those nights. I'm over here being all serious. You're over here going, oh, like what? And yeah, we're sorry that this isn't our best show, guys. We're tired. And we just didn't want to break, didn't want to be 2 weeks out. But let's start with this last week in WWE. And we're just going to cover the two big events. I'm not going to go match by match because I've got kind of long-winded points about the two biggest things. So and I'm going out of sync on the list, but NXT Takeover Toronto. First of all, they went against what I would have liked to have seen, which I knew they probably couldn't have done anyway because of how weak the tag division is. For NXT, they needed to keep Gargano and Ciampa together, but I would have loved to have seen them split with Gargano turning heel. But if you're going to keep them together, the way they ended the feud with the Revival, 2 out of 3 falls match, you had all the shenanigans that along the way had cost them win after win against them finally not work. It finally turned into at least a fair shot. Lots of close call moments, lots of moments where it looked like it was over. Just great old school hard hitting tag team wrestling.
Right.
And you've got Sanity and the Authors of Pain in the most recent tapings all kind of making their claims. And it looks like, based on the fact that Gargano and Ciampa, and this is a little bit of spoilers for the tapings that had happened today, were coming out to talk about their win. Everybody else interfered, started a big standoff. They never got to say anything. I really hope they're not doing this gimmick where they're sort of comically put on the back burner while everybody else fights for a shot at them. I'd like to see them be assertive at some point and step up and say, no, we're the champs, we're picking who we're fighting, and go from there. But that's not the big story. The big story for Toronto was Shinsuke Nakamura's first loss. First title defense.
I thought he lost against someone else, though.
No. Nope.
Oh, wait, no.
Shinsuke
I think I
Nakamura.
was thinking of the fight with him and Balor in the last one there. That was like
Yes,
really close
Balor lost his last match and whatnot.
That's right.
Nakamura lost his belt back to Joe, which was good. I mean, a lot of people who are from that, everybody gets a trophy generation, cried, but I got it. It was a hard-fought, even match. That's how you end a win streak, because that's NXT's problem. They get a guy in, and if they don't know what to do with him, then he kind of gets booked normally. If they want him to be a star, all they know is, let's just give him a big win streak. And then these guys get lost on the main roster because they don't know how to handle that you don't win all the time. They did this beautifully with Nakamura. Where they go from here, they've already planted the seeds that Bobby Roode's going to get a title shot at some point in today's taping, or for the next couple of weeks of shows.
I think I remember seeing, sorry to cut in, but I think I remember seeing like a video, maybe a good couple of weeks ago now, of Nakamura just like in like the back out, hallways or whatever, one of the arenas, like crying. Was it because he lost?
This just happened this last weekend, so no.
Oh,
I don't know what you were watching.
I didn't know when the recording was.
Yeah, I don't know what you were watching.
But yeah, it was. He like broke down on something.
I don't know. I don't know.
I thought this might have been this.
I think you're wrong, sir. Anyway. So what I think they should do, the best booking to make this work is there should be a final match between the two. And if they want to get some time out of it, then you can go ahead and do Samoa Joe versus Bobby Roode. Two heels don't really work, even though Bobby Roode is getting more or less a babyface reaction.
Two heels don't make a foot.
Right. Plus, I really don't think Samoa Joe and him are going to have the best match right now with the different styles they're having them wrestle. I mean, they could do it. They're talented enough to do it, and they've probably done it in TNA, and I just never watched. But I would like to see you have one more match between Joe and Nakamura, and this is where WWE has to decide who for the next year is going to be the working champion for that brand, because it's a touring brand, which means it's got to draw. When you become a touring brand versus a single stationary brand, because when they're at Full Sail, they can just let students in for free. Boom, full house every time. Plus, that venue doesn't hold that many people.
Makes sense.
But when you're going to real venues, you've got to have some people with star power. So there's going to be a working champion there who's going to be a guy who should be on the main roster and isn't. You have to decide, do you want that to be Samoa Joe? Do you want that to be Nakamura? Honestly, that position always works better with a heel. That's what made the NWA great, is you had Ric Flair as the working heel, being champion for years. That's why he had 16. What nobody realizes about, oh my God, who's going to break the title reign record, is high title reign numbers usually only work better for a heel because it was, you run your mouth, you lose clean after cheating the good guy out of so many matches. You have to have the big gimmick match where you don't have the ability to cheat, or if you do, it's a level playing field so they can do the same things back to you. You lose the belt, babyface keeps it for a while, you cheat and get it back, start all over again, making a new babyface. It's the territory model, because usually that top babyface would have popped, and then the fans get sick of him and they're ready for someone new.
Yeah, that gets old.
Right. And that model could work great for NXT, because instead of the babyface moving on to new territory, you move him up to the main roster. He's got fan support right away. You can always do a short run turn if you want to get a heel over, another heel over, which Samoa Joe works well as a heel and a face. I don't think Nakamura would work as well, being able to switch between heel and face. So I really think you have Samoa Joe win the final match of the three between them, and then Nakamura debuts. And I really hope they structure all this around WrestleMania time, because to hear the crowd singing along with Nakamura's entrance music at WrestleMania as like some kind of surprise debut would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
So that's the second and third biggest news out of WWE the last couple weeks. The first is Survivor Series. And if you're a wrestling fan, I'm sure that's all I needed to say for you to know where I'm going. And that is, of course, R-Truth and Gold. No, I'm kidding. Goldberg destroys Brock Lesnar in under 2 minutes. Gets pushed into the corner, pushes Lesnar back, Lesnar looks shocked, gets up, eats a spear, eats another spear, jackhammer, it's over.
Yeah, I think I saw a video. I think I saw a video edit that turned Goldberg into Blue Super Saiyan.
Right. Which is
surprisingly funny and accurate.
And
like
I mean,
doing the scream.
Listening to Jim Cornette lose his shit over it, who I love. And I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, you owe it to yourself to listen to Jim Cornette. He is one of the smartest minds in the business, and he's usually on point about what he's saying. And he did admit he was, got his opinion turned around on this, because he started out hating it. I think it was Dave Meltzer's with him, or Brian Alvarez is with him on his show. One of the other mainstream pundits for wrestling, sold it. Now, they sold it in a negative light that got him to like it, which is, there's nobody on the main roster who, could destroy Brock Lesnar like that and benefit. That's not the point. That is the point. If you want to end Lesnar and have him be done, you have a new guy do it. You have the new guy destroy him.
Yeah.
Because that's it. If you destroy Brock Lesnar as a newer entity, you're destroying the guy who beat the streak. If you're an established entity with the same history of domination and you beat him and you book it right, then no, it doesn't hurt Goldberg at all. Or it doesn't hurt Lesnar at all. And it didn't.
I see what you mean there.
Right, and it didn't. It made...
And it definitely will immediately put the new guy over.
Well, yeah, but that's not... We're off that part. What I'm saying is why it worked without ending Brock Lesnar, why it worked for these two was Goldberg was an established, dominating ass kicker. He wrestled the same match with Lesnar that he wrestled for his entire first 6 or whatever months in WCW that got him to that legendary status. And he is a legend, whether you like it or not. Wrestling purists, I know, want to yell at me for this, but it's true. He made himself a legend in the business, whether you like it or not. Same as Ultimate Warrior. They did it the same way. High impact, intensity matches that caught enough interest from the hardcore fans that they had to like it and reeled in truckloads of casual fans. That's the real way you become a legend in the business. And it worked. But they, after, what has it been, 9 or so years or whatever, the idea that if he would have had a competitive back and forth match with Lesnar, he would have been exposed right away. He would have shown his age right away. It wouldn't have gotten the reaction. It would have been worse than their WrestleMania 20 match. And he would have been gone. And that would have been it. This worked so well. We've got him for the Royal Rumble. There's rumors he could win the Royal Rumble. They've booked him better in his 1.5 months or 2 months or whatever being back now than they did for the entire year or 2 years they had him before. Because they finally figured out Goldberg is an attraction, just like Lesnar. We had 2 attractions go at it, and I can guarantee you they would do another record buy if pay-per-views were still a thing, having them do it again. So, just like with Nakamura, here's how I'd book this. And they're already on this road. You announce, you had Heyman come out and say, we made a mistake. We overestimated him. We thought he was old. We thought he was past his prime. We thought we were going to destroy him. We weren't ready for the intensity. We weren't ready for the strength. He overpowered Lesnar. He got him, but Lesnar's going to come back for him. And then you have them both announced to be in the Rumble. And here's what I would do. You'd have it be such a personal feud, such a personal competition, and you really sort of use a lot more of the MMA lingo than you would wrestling lingo. You don't talk about it being about anything other than like pride and respect, and in a very weird way, he's made Lesnar, respect him by humbling him, and I don't know why I'd say weird way, but you make it about respect and pride, and then you have this moment in the Royal Rumble where they both enter kind of late, and everybody thinks they're going to go after each other because that's what wrestling would do. If you have a feud during the Rumble, oh my God, I mean, we saw Macho Man eliminate himself once so he could keep attacking Jake Roberts. No, that's that stuff that's not going to work for these two. You have them team up. You have them start...
Just to get to the last match?
Right. You have them kind of team up just to get to where it's them in the final 4. Because that's really when you should stop this. And that's when they fall apart, and that's when they start going after each other. And it doesn't have to be a, oh, pointing at each other like, yeah, let's do this. It's just sort of teaming up by not focusing on each other. Because they hate each other, but they have a goal.
Yeah, like, or the occasional moment where, like, not like the looking back and forth, like, oh my god.
Yeah, the pointing at each other like, did we just become best friends?
Did we both
or
that guy?
That stupid, slow, macho man Randy Savage, if they actually touch, the universe might explode. No,
were they both, like, just, like, take a sec, like, maybe, like, look at each other, then just do a quick knockout to some person at the same time.
Yeah, not even that.
And, like, throw them off the rope.
Yeah.
And then go back to their own business.
Well, not even that. Maybe one of those to kind of wink, nudge, nudge.
Just where it's not, like, their entire... That way, so it's not like they're ignoring each other. Like, maybe there's, like,
I don't know.
Maybe some conflict.
I see that, but I do think the idea of them kind of ignoring each other works, and here's why. Is you have them both in promos say, yes, we're going to go again, but we need to finish, we need to get to WrestleMania. That's Brock Lesnar's goal. After being beaten, he needs something to prove he's still got it before he goes after Goldberg again.
Yeah.
He needs to feel like the beast again. He wants the belt. Goldberg says, well, after beating Lesnar, I'm rejuvenated. I think I've got one more run left in me. I think I could do this one more time. So I want to win the belt. They had him have his kid come in the ring and celebrate. I want, my son got to see me wrestle again. I want my son to see me as a champion again.
Yeah.
And you have them fight at it, and you have it where I don't want to give Goldberg the win and let him kind of go up 2-0 in this. But it makes more sense for Goldberg to win the Rumble than it does for Lesnar in WWE's eyes. That's probably what's going to happen. I would say you have it get down to the final 3 and you have Lesnar take that opportunity to beat Goldberg just to give that oomph, like, haha, I can still outsmart you, which is going to be important later on.
Yeah.
Lesnar decides that he wants to trade his title opportunity. Instead of at WrestleMania, he wants it for whatever the pay-per-view is in between. Gets the belt. He wins. And then you have him come out, and you have Lesnar come out. You have Goldberg come out. They have a big stare down. You have Goldberg say, okay, I beat you in the match. You cost me the Royal Rumble. Way I see it, we're 1-1. How are we going to break this tie? And you have Goldberg say, and you have him, have Goldberg say to Lesnar, do you want a chance to beat me for real?
Ooh. Yeah.
And then just points, because, Goldberg talking too much, even though he's way better at talking now, which you could don't thank TV for when he had that Overdrive show or whatever, and plus the couple of movies he's been in, he can talk a lot better now than he could before. Anyway, you have him kind of point to the WrestleMania logo that is going to be all over the place after the Rumble, and you have Heyman make the deal, and you have him go to Mania. And here you can either finally have Lesnar get the win back, or you can go with the sort of feel-good moment of Lesnar dropping the belt. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, one solid ass kicking on whoever's got a belt now, and Lesnar's back to being the man. That's what, again, the core reason why it worked is you had one attraction beating another, not a superstar beating an attraction. Yeah. And as long as that's the case, as long as your attraction can come out at any time, beat up a regular roster guy, and get that heat back. So that's how I'd book it. If you have a better idea, please message us, let us know. But yeah, those are the big events to come out of SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver Toronto. Any final thoughts, Fireheart?
It sounds like it should be a pretty fun couple of months.
Yep. All right, well then that's it for Nerds at Night for tonight. As always, I'm Kid Thunder DJ.
And I'm Fire47.
Again, please like, share, subscribe, leave us a review on iTunes if you would. Also, you can find us again at facebook.com/nerdsatnight, nerdsatnight.com, or Twitter @nerdsatnight. Have a good night.
Good night.